UFC 269 was an absolutely smashing event with some standout performances all over the card. Let's recap all that action and find out what else we have left to look forward to for the rest of 2021. All this and more on today's episode of Combat Catch-Ups. Check it out. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Combat Catch-Ups. Today I'm going to be bringing you the recap of all the fun stuff that happened this past weekend at UFC 269. Now we had some standout performances across the card, but the ones that caught my attention and the ones that I'd recommend you go and check out if you weren't there on Saturday to witness the card live. We start on the prelims with former champion Dominic the Dominator Cruz. Dominic initially putting in a scary round one where I thought he would be finished. But my God, Dominic proved that he still has a lot left in him. Coming back in round 2 and 3, dominating his opponent, coming out on top with a unanimous decision victory. Dominic proving that there still is some gas left in the tank and he is far from done. Well, on that same prelims card, we also had Tai Tuivasa with a first round knockout and a trademark shoey following his win. Now moving on to the main card. Now Sugar Sean O'Malley came to town with the Sugar Show and boy did it deliver. First round knockout like he's been doing in most of his fights so far, and I think Sean's here to stay. Sean proved that he is ready for the top brass in the UFC and it's about time that he makes a debut on the rankings and now gets a chance to fight a ranked opponent as well. Some of the surprises that weren't so good were actually Cody Garbrandt. Now Cody, a 135 former champion moving down to 125, trying to see how he's going to fare at this lower weight class. Now he took on New Zealand's Kai Kara France, but unfortunately Cody made the same mistake that he's made so many times in the past. He got touched on the chin, decided to make it an ego battle and started going into a firefight. Well, guess what? Cody does not have the best chin at 135 and nothing's changed at 125. He lost the firefight, taking a knockout loss once again, I think the third one in his last 4 fights. What's next for Cody? We're not quite sure, but one thing certain, he needs to change the way he looks at fights and his strategy going into these firefights that he seems to find himself on the losing end of a little too often these days. By this point, the night had been a fantastic event, but the surprises were just about to begin. When we moved into the co-main event of the evening, probably one of the safest bets you could have made, Juliana Pena ended up upsetting the GOAT, Amanda the Lioness Nunes. And in the words of Dana White, I think he's asked the most pertinent question. We know that Juliana Pena trained like hell for this fight. The question is, did Amanda? Because by the time we came around to the second round, Amanda started to look like she was getting tired, like she was mentally broken. Juliana, despite having lost the first round, came back and actually beat Amanda Nunes at a firefight. Something that I never thought I'd see and never thought I'd be able to come out here and talk about, but it did happen. And Juliana Pena has changed the course of history. Probably putting in one of the biggest upsets, if not the biggest upset in the history of mixed martial arts, taking down the 135-pound champion in Amanda Nunes. Well, I wonder what's next for that division, but a rematch might well be on the cards. Now, the surprises continued. For the main event, Dustin Poirier came up short once again at a World Championship title fight. Charles Oliveira, who initially looked like he might have picked the wrong front to fight Dustin on, got into a firefight in round 1 and looked like Dustin might be the one to come out on top. But Charles Oliveira came from behind once again, like he's done so many times in the recent past, moved the fight to an area where he is possibly unbeatable at 155, got into the grappling exchange, dominated round 2 while on top of Dustin, came back in round 3, got straight back to the grappling, took Dustin's back and tapped him out with a rear naked choke. So Charles Oliveira has proven that he's no longer a quitter. He is someone that is well-rounded enough that he could weather the striking of Dustin Poirier. And not just that, come back, adapt to the situation and overcome in true championship fashion. So well-deserved victory for Charles Oliveira. And you know what they say, when one door closes, another one opens. This means my personal favorite matchup in the UFC, Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira, might still be on the cards. Charles just has to get through Dustin and Islam has to get through Beneil Dariush. Well, I've been wrong in the past and I hope I'm not wrong this time, but I think Islam will come out on top in the Beneil Dariush contest, and Charles Oliveira shouldn't have too much trouble putting Justin away. And I hope that we get to see this dream matchup, but we won't know until later next year. We just hope and pray that it happens. Now that's what happened this past weekend. Do go and check it out. Some of the biggest upsets, big surprises, but fantastic performances overall. Now we are in the last 2 weeks of the year, but the fun's not yet over. We still have some fantastic matches that we can expect this weekend on December the 18th. Now 2 events. First up, Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley are back at it again. But if that's not your cup of tea, you want to see what the real stuff is about, we have a fight night event with some great fights on the card. The top 2 being my personal favorites and featuring some of the best fighters, some of the most entertaining fighters out there in the UFC. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, one of my favorite strikers in the UFC, is back, and he takes on Bilal Muhammad for a fight amongst the 2 top 10 contenders in the welterweight division. And the final main event of the night features the most entertaining guys at heavyweight, Derek the Black Beast Lewis taking on Philadelphia's finest, Chris Daukaus. Now, both these guys are accomplished strikers. Derek Lewis known for his knockout power and for his ability to turn fights around with just one big shot. Well, Daukaus, being a striker himself, has a slightly different approach. Now, this man has got some fantastic technical skill. He moves great. For a guy that is as big as he is, he's very light on his feet, very technical, and very well-rounded as a striker. So I'm very interested to see how the boxer versus the slugger turns out. All this coming up this weekend, December the 18th, and that will round out a fantastic year of fights and combat sports for us here in the UFC and beyond. So do go and check out this event. I definitely will. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and supporting. Continue to like, follow, share, and subscribe. I will see you in another video. Happy holidays, everybody. Stay safe.